Today you see a dress and a top, and there's a special feature, a cowl neckline in a woven, which is not common to see. You usually see those for neat patterns. This time it's different and it's really pretty. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I have a brand new pattern release to share with you. This is from Itch to Stitch and it's called Simien Top and Dress. The Simien top and dress is an easy to fit, easy to wear, just pull on style. No zippers, no closures. Just grab it from your hanger and throw it on. Amazing, love that. And usually designs like that tend to be boxy, but not this one. It's not boxy. Super pretty. I mentioned in the beginning that there's a cowl neckline. You can see on the line out there, it's a rounded neckline that you can also finish with a facing. So you can have the simple facing finish or the beautiful cowl neckline finish. I think the cowl neckline is something different and something I've only sewn in neat patterns. So I decided to make both my versions with the beautiful cowl neckline. But if that is not your jam, you can also do the facing, which is also a super nice clean finish. Now the top and the dress have princess seams that come from the neckline. From up here, that's where you get the bust shaping. Beautiful, different as well. I love that. And then there's a curved seam that goes over here and then finishes on the side around the high hip area. Now in that seam there, you can add on inseam pockets. It's the same technique as adding an inseam pocket on the side. It's just that it's on this area. I didn't do this for my version and it's only available for the dress, because if you sew the top, then you don't have any more hem to cover all that pocket area. At the back, we do have a center back seam which has shaping. I would suggest you keep that shaping because it's beautiful. It goes in at the waist. You're less likely to have sway back issues and excess fabric over there. For the sleeves, you can do short sleeve or a 3/4 length sleeve. For my dress version, I did the short sleeve, but for my top version, I went rogue and did a sleeveless version just because I like that and it's hot, and why not? You need woven fabrics for this design. Now, it depends on what you're doing with the neckline, what type of fabric is going to be better. Because I've chosen the cowl neckline, I think you need something that drapes. It's going to look much better than if you did that cowl neckline with a very structured cotton. Even if it's lightweight, if it's structured, it's going to look strange. So I think drape is preferred if you're going to do the cowl neckline. And then you have linen rayon blend, you have rayon twill, tencel, crepe, that sort of material I think would be nicer for the cowl neckline. But if you're making your dress or top with the facing finish, I don't think drape is sort of required there. So you can use a whole variety of fabrics, both flowy and both structured fabrics I think are going to work well. If you're doing the facing finish, then you need a little bit of fusible interfacing, and that's all the supplies you need. There's no zipper, nothing like that, because this just pulls on over your head. Because the Simien top and dress is a brand new pattern at Itch to Stitch, it's going to be 20% off through next Monday, the 19th of May. I'll leave you my affiliate link in the description box and at the top of the comment section. If you click on the link, it'll take you straight there. If you end up purchasing, you don't pay anything extra because you use my link. It just means the designer is going to give me back a small commission, and it's one of the ways I make an income creating helpful content all about sewing here on YouTube. So if you use my link, I'm very grateful. Sizing from 00 to 40 US, up to a 62-inch hip, and with all woven patterns at Itch to Stitch, you have bust cup sizes, which is amazing, from A through to double D. That is going to give you the amazing bust fit right here on the princess seam that comes from this area. It's going to have a different curve for the different cup sizes. I think that is amazing. If you look at the ease, it's a nice comfortable top. You're not going to be constricted. It's not boxy. You know, you have about 5 inches of ease around the bust and the hips and around 6.5 at the waist. So you're going to be able to pinch a little bit everywhere and you'll be very comfortable. So that's all good. Looking at my measurements and plotting them down, I'm doing a size 12 on the bust with a C cup. I'm keeping that same size 12 to the waist, and then I'm blending out to a 14 at the hips. Now, because of the shapes here, you'll find in the instruction a really helpful diagram that shows you how to blend from sizes to sizes over here, because it's not just doing it on the side seam. You also need to blend in the center area as well. So that is very easy to follow, and you'll be fine. If you get the pattern and look at that diagram, you will be perfectly fine. Now, for the length of the dress, I made no changes. I actually made 0 fitting adjustments here other than blending sizes. I didn't make any changes to the pattern at all. For my dress, I sewed it as is and it's perfectly fine. Now for my top, I did figure out it was a little bit too short for me. If I cut there where it says cut here for top, it's a little short. And although the pattern has a shorten and lengthen line, I think that's more appropriate if you're trying to adjust bodice length because it's up higher. It would have messed with where this goes in and out if I lengthened right there. So I chose my own shorten and lengthen line, 2 inches above the cut line for the top. That's where I cut my pieces and I added 3/4 of an inch. So it ends up being a shorter top, but not as short as it would have been if I just left it. I am a little bit taller, I'm 5'8", so I'm off the average, you know, that these patterns are made for. So sometimes I keep it as is, it just depends on the style. But for this one, with measuring the pattern, I thought, no, this is way too short for me. So little tiny fitting adjustment for length, but otherwise it was super, super easy. Another fitting change I made to my top, which I decided to make sleeveless, was to raise it here by 3/8 of an inch. And I did that just when I was cutting. Look at this photo here. You can see I just cut it 3/8 of an inch higher and then just tapered back into the regular armhole. That was all. Once I finished sewing it, I took it in here by about an inch just to make it a little narrower, and then I came back to the same curve there. So I always do mess with the sleeveless armhole. Sometimes it ends up a little wider if you just leave it as is. You know, you're going to have a sleeve sewn on. That's how it's drafted. So I like doing that. Finished it with bias tape and it was all okay. I am going to show you a lot of the sewing. You're going to see how easy it is to put together. It takes no time at all to sew this one. There is nothing complicated. And I'm going to let you know in advance, I did not sew the pockets. I do not like pockets on dresses. And yeah, I think it would have just dragged the seam on the center and created bulk there. So if you like pockets, you'll be fine. The instructions are amazing. It's just like sewing an inseam pocket. It's just on the front. So there's nothing different, nothing hard there. But I'm going to focus on all the other construction and the cowl neckline. So let's see. These are my pattern pieces for the Simien top. It can also be a dress. These are the main pieces. Now the only difference between the top and the dress is the length. So this is the back. It's not on the fold. You can see it's shaped right here. It goes in at the waist. So there are 2 pieces there. If you're sewing a dress, this is just longer. This is the center front. This one is cut on the fold. This is the side front. You can see that the neckline has a seam, and that's where the princess seam comes from above the bust, but from the neckline. Then it curves out. If you're sewing the dress, this piece will end up in a point right here, and then this goes longer like that all the way down. But this princess seam is sewn exactly the same. This is the cowl neckline. It's a big piece. I've folded it there so it fits the table, but it's much longer, cut on the bias. It needs to be cut on the bias so that it drapes nicely, otherwise it would be terribly stiff. Now, there are some other pieces that I'm not going to use for this version. There's a sleeve. So this is the short sleeve right here. I have used the short sleeve for a dress that I made. You can also make a 3/4 length sleeve. So that's an option there. If you don't like the cowl neckline, it's not your jam, you can also finish the neckline with facings. So we have a back facing and a front facing, both cut on the fold. That would be very simple to do, but I really like the cowl neckline, so I'm making my versions with the cowl neckline. I have already shown you how to sew facings before. It's very simple. Now, I'm not going to use a sleeve on this one because I want mine to be sleeveless. So I'm going to just use bias binding to finish the sleeveless armholes. First step, as always, is to stay stitch this neckline. Super important. We don't want it to stretch out, whether you're sewing the facing or the cowl neckline. You want it to stay the same shape and length that it has. So from the shoulder into the center for both back pieces. The front neckline is composed of 3 pieces, 2 side pieces and 1 center, so we'll stay stitching that as well. I'm doing the center front first, and I'm going from the edge to the center, then flipping the fabric and doing the same from the other edge to the center to keep it symmetrical. Now the 2 side pieces from the shoulder into the center. And now, because I'm planning to make this one sleeveless, I'm going to stay stitch the armholes. I don't usually stay stitch armholes when I know I'm going to sew sleeves on later, but I don't want my armholes to end up gaping from stretching out. It's quite a curved section. A lot of it is cut on the bias, so let's just go ahead and stay stitch them from the shoulder down to the side seam area. Next step is pretty simple and pretty mindless. And I love this method of construction, which is serging every single edge, shoulders, side seams. I'm even going to serge the bottom so that it's ready for the hem. I'm doing this for the front, all the pieces, center backs. The only ones I'm not going to do are the princess seams that will compose the front pieces. Those are going to be sewn together and then serged, but all the rest, serging, serging, serging. I'm also careful with the blade, trying not to trim away so I can keep the seam allowance intact, which is going to be 1/2 inch to sew the whole rest. This is the center front piece right here. I had already stay stitched the neckline. I was about to start pinning it to the piece that goes on the side. And I went to a cupboard to get something else and I saw a tiny leftover Broderie Anglaise that I have from another project. And so I just thought, why don't I replace the center front for the Broderie Anglaise? It's actually the exact same tone of red. So I'm going to have Broderie Anglaise in the middle and it's going to give this top a lovely detail. Now, the problem was that I couldn't cut it on the fold because it was just a long strip of fabric left over that I had. So all I've done is take my pattern piece and add 1/2 inch seam allowance here in the center. So I am going to have a center front seam on this one. Just pretend that it's not there. It's not going to upset me. I'm going to serge those, press it open, sew the seam, and then it'll be like it's on the fold. So I'm going to go ahead and stay stitch this again, sew that seam, and then keep making my top. This is a center back seam that I'm sewing now with 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can see my edges have already been serged. So this is a seam I'm going to press open. And I'm going to do the same for that extra center front seam I'm going to have with my cotton Broderie Anglaise. So that's something I'm going to do right after this, all the same. And then I'm going to put together the front with the princess seams. Okay, here are my front pieces. This is the Broderie Anglaise. There is my extra center front seam pressed. Pretend it's not there. And I've pinned it to these pieces right here. And you can see my little yellow marks right here match the ones on the other side. Going down the curve, there's another little mark right here that matches the one on the back. And then it finishes off like that. So that's how it's going to look like on the side. Here you're going to have this left over at the seam allowance. That's both going to meet 1/2 inch right there. So we're just going to get these sewn, 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then I'm going to serge it. Okay, here I have my front completed. This is the curved seam right here, very nice. I've actually done some edge stitching there. I've pressed the seam allowance to the sides so that it's not seen underneath the little openings of the Broderie Anglaise. Center front seam, you can barely see it. So that's done. And now general steps that are super easy. Put the back right sides together. Sew the shoulder seams, press those open. Sew the side seams, press those open. And then you could sew on your sleeve if you wanted. So after doing those general steps, I'm going to focus on sewing the cowl neckline. That's going to be a little bit different. This is the cowl piece. It's quite a large piece. And on each of the shoulder ends, we have this curve like this. So there's a curve over here and there's a curve over there. Now on the wrong side, I've marked with yellow what's going to match the shoulder seams. And then on any of these long ends, it doesn't really matter which one, I folded it in by 1/2 inch towards the wrong side. So you can see my mark, it's folded in. I got that 1/2 inch by doing a guide stitch that would help me fold in nicely at the iron without burning myself. So I am going to remove this guide stitch. I don't need it anymore. After doing that memory crease, we're going to fold this right sides together and we're going to sew this curved edge right here. You can see the 2 layers. I'm going to sew it and then press it open. Okay, there is that center back seam that I've just sewn. I've pressed it open. Now I have a round cowl neckline and a round neckline, and I've aligned them right sides together. That center back seam of the cowl is going to match the center back seam of the neckline right here. And then we had on the pattern these little marks that match the shoulder seams. That little mark there matches the shoulder seam. And then you find the center and match it up to the center. In this case, I have a center front seam that's not supposed to be there. So it matches 1 to 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew it. It's a round seam, 1/2 inch seam allowance. But I'm not going to sew it like this with the cowl piece on top.
the cowl piece is on the bias, so it has a potential of stretching out as I sew. I'm going to have the neckline on top and the cowl piece on the bottom. And this is how I'm going to keep the seam more stable. So my presser foot is touching the neckline, the feed dogs are touching the cowl piece. You can see that I've hand basted these seams together. You know, they are round, they have shapes. I don't want to be dealing with pins as I go around the neckline. I want the experience to be nice. So quick hand basting did the trick. As usual, these basting stitches can come flying off in half a second. So nice. And now I don't want to leave all this 1/2 inch seam allowance in here. So I'm going to trim it in half all the way around. It's all curved, so I'm going to snip just to have no tension here on this neckline. Okay, so there's the cowl neckline sewn on this seam. I'm going to head over to the iron and press the seam up all the way around. And now we have this edge where we have that memory fold that we'd done before. This is going to come over to the inside now once that seam is pressed up, and it's going to cover that seam. When I've got it all matched up, I'm going to hand baste it. And then from this edge, we're going to stitch in the ditch right there. It's going to be invisible and it's going to be catching this side over here. And that's going to be another round seam. So lots of tidying up to do and hand basting, and then one final stitch to finish this cowl neckline. Okay, here you can see my hand basting. I actually hand basted in the ditch right here, making sure I was catching enough of this fold on the other side. So I'm probably catching about 1/8 of an inch. And I went all along the edge, making sure I was going to catch this. There's no other way I could do it nice and neatly. I don't think you could achieve a neat result with pins. You know, you could be stitching in the ditch, but missing out on sewing some of the sections here on the back. It could end up quite messy. So that is my way to do it. Baste in the ditch, huge basting stitches, but it's going to ensure that I catch everything on the inside. And now I'm going to sew. I don't use a special stitch in the ditch presser foot, so I'm just using my regular presser foot and I'm sewing right there into the seam. It's going to end up looking super neat, just as if I'd used a stitch in the ditch foot. You can see on the wrong side, I have the stitching and it's caught all the way around. I don't have a single section where I didn't get the stitching catching the inner part of this cowl neckline. So hand basting is always the way to go for me. I always get a really amazing result. And now I just have to remove all that white thread, no drama. If you're loving the sewing content and it's helpful for your own sewing at home, please don't step away from here without tapping on that like button there. It's the best way to let YouTube know that you like this, that you like the content, and hopefully more people can find me on this huge platform here. So far you saw the red of my top with the tutorial, but I'm going to show you the dress first. It's not a wow fabric at all. It's pretty blah if you ask me, but it's a neutral, so it'll be super good for my wardrobe. Green, 70% rayon, 30% linen, super nice. I've got the little short sleeves here. I did the hem by hand because it just looks nicer. Cowl neckline over here, very drapey, very beautiful. Stitched in the ditch right here. You can't even see the stitch, it's so clean. And then these princess seams, I top stitched them just on the edge, just to highlight them because this is a solid, so why not? So the curve goes up to here. You can see it finishes right there. This is where you would have the pockets if you were sewing them, so you would have little marks there to put in your pockets. I didn't do that. Center back seam over here, no drama there. It's a very simple dress to sew. I have a hand hem also. All my seams inside are serged separately. It's actually part of the instructions that you serge them quite in the beginning of the process and then press everything open. So that is super pretty. The only seam that is not like that is the princess seam. That one's sewn and then serged together and top stitched. So beautiful dress. The color, I know, but not everything has to be red. And you'll see my red top next, but let's see this one on style a few ways. This is my Simien dress from Itch to Stitch. This is a rayon linen blend, 70% rayon, 30% linen. It's a really nice pull-on dress, right over your head, no zippers. Mine is a size 12 C cup, 12 waist and blended to a 14 hip. I've got the cowl neckline. There's a really nice amount of ease and there's really interesting princess seams come from the neckline. There's a center back seam with shaping. I suggest you keep that, it's beautiful. And here is the princess seam that comes from the neckline and curves over to the hip area. In this section, you can sew inseam pockets as an option. I didn't do that with mine. And here is the beautiful cowl neckline. It's a piece cut on the bias. It's stitched in the ditch right there. And on the inside, you have a little fold. It's a very neat finish. Beautiful, I love it. Doesn't add any heat or weight onto the garment, and the princess seams fit beautifully with the C-cup. Really love it. If the cowl neckline option is not your jam, you can sew a simple facing as well. I have a short sleeve. I think the fit is beautiful at the shoulders. Good mobility, very comfortable sleeve here and a great length. You can also sew a 3/4 length sleeve if that's what you prefer. And you can see it's nice and flowy. It's not boxy, it's not fitted, it's just right. But as usual, you can wear it with a belt, so let's see. I've got a matching belt in a green tone as well, kept my red shoes and bag, and I think it gives it another look. It cinches in the waist, gives you a little bit more definition. But as I said, it's not a boxy dress. I think it's well shaped. This is just another option. And I usually don't wear belts when I'm wearing my dresses just on their own. I usually just wear them as they are, so I find that more comfortable. But if I wear jackets, then I usually bring out my belts. So that is the look of the dress. I think it's really beautiful. I love that cowl neckline. It's not too voluminous. I thought it was going to feel hot on, but I can barely feel that it's there. And it just makes it really pretty. I've brought out lots of my jackets here. This is a beige one in linen. It's super nice. Got matching shoes and bag right there. This is a ready-to-wear jacket. I bought this summer in a sale, so I couldn't pass that up. Great quality fabric. And of course, this neutral color of the dress is going to go with a lot of my jackets. So this is nice. This blazer doesn't have a collar. It's just a simple neckline with a facing. So it's really nice and streamlined with the cowl neckline. I think it really lets the cowl neckline shine. But you're going to see my other jackets all have collars and things, and the cowl neckline looks great, just the same. So this is an option. Really like it. Now this is a green jacket that I have. I'm more dressed in green here. Different tones of green, but I think it looks really nice. Black heels and a black bag. You know, I can't get away from these heels. They're so pretty. And you can see the tag of my belt. I have to cut that away. Yeah, I really like this. The jacket is nice and short, so I don't think it looks really boxy. And I think it matches the style of the dress beautifully. This style of dress is going to match a lot of styles of jackets, in my opinion. So I'm quite happy I have a lot of options, and this color is a neutral. It goes with everything, including this caramel tone jacket, caramel shoes. I don't know, it's a tan color. It's really beautiful. Really love it. This is another ready-to-wear jacket that I have, and I think this color combination is perfect as well. When I chose the color of this dress, I thought it was pretty blah. But knowing, you know, not everything has to be super bright. Sometimes neutrals are needed, and this type of neutral green actually matches every single color that I have. So I'm quite happy, and this looks really, really nice. This is a more traditional way, just a black blazer, also short. I really love this blazer. It's ready to wear. I need to make myself some crop blazers because I grab this one a lot. I've got a black belt, black shoes, everything really, really basic, really easy to get dressed like this. And the dress looks beautiful underneath the blazer as well. I think it's a beautiful, well-fitting dress. I really enjoyed making it, and finding so many ways I can wear it is really exciting. And to finish it off, let's brighten it up with a wine color little shirt. This was a shirt that was long, but I cropped it. It's a hack. Got matching shoes. I think the green and this wine color burgundy-ish looks really, really nice. I could have also brought in a red jacket, and I think this green would have looked amazing as well. Purple, navy, I mean, so many colors would look amazing with this color. So I don't regret making a neutral. You know, they are needed. They're not the most exciting colors, but the dress is amazing, and I'm glad to have it, and I'm happy I can wear it so many ways.
This is my red version. In the tutorial, I mentioned that I'd found a piece of Broderie Anglaise left over from another project. It's actually the same tone of red, which is amazing. So I have my center front made out of Broderie Anglaise with an extra center front seam that I top stitched on the side, 1/4 inch seam allowance each side just to highlight it, just to make it a feature, to make it look like it's supposed to be there, like I wanted it to be there, although I didn't. You know, sometimes you just have to go with it and add an extra seam. So that's all good. That's all good. I also edge stitched the seam right here with a princess seam. The curve finishes at the hem right here because it's shorter, it's a top. And I did my hem by machine this time, no drama there. Same center back seam and the beautiful cowl neckline finish with the stitch in the ditch. Catching it on the inside here, super neat everywhere. Such a nice top. I use satin bias tape, which is bias tape I bought in Bolivia years ago, 2017, 2016. And I bought these rolls of 100 yards. Super soft, easy to use, and it saves me time because I don't have to make bias tape sometimes. So yeah, I use that and it's very nice, understitched, very neat. I'll leave you a link to a video I have on the channel, super detailed about how to sew bias tape if you want to go that route. But I think this turned out amazing. It's so cute. I love it.
Here is my Simien top. It's the same as the dress, it's just shorter. I've got the same cowl neckline, the same size, 12 bust C cup to a 12 waist and 14 hip. It actually hits my upper hip. I lengthened my top by 3/4 of an inch to match my height. I've got it paired with ready-to-wear jeans, and as I come closer, you're going to see that the center front panel is made out of cotton, Broderie Anglaise. It's a little leftover I had. I loved adding it on here. I think it looks really nice. Here is my red cowl neckline. This is another drapey rayon linen blend, stitched in the ditch. Beautiful, drapes amazingly. And there is my cotton Broderie Anglaise in the center. I have top stitched that, and this is a sleeveless hack, modified the armhole a little bit, finished it with binding on the inside, and it's such a nice top. It fits amazingly with the cup sizes. Mine is a C cup, and this cowl neckline is gorgeous. Remember, if you don't like the cowl neckline, you can make a facing if you want to, but I think the neckline is amazing and I couldn't not make it twice. So yeah, love this. I think it really dresses up the jeans beautifully, but you're going to see it styled many more ways as well. Here it is with some shorts, stripy shorts. Of course, there's red in there, and I've got a really low heel sandal. So this would be a really nice casual outfit for me to go out one day and be out on the street all day and be super comfortable. The shorts are wide, they have a flat front, elasticated back. You know, they're not fitted shorts, but because the silhouette of the top is a little shorter, I think it goes perfectly with wider style bottoms like these shorts. So it's amazing, really love it. Love making red things as always, and having this little red top is going to give me so many possibilities, and there's so many styles of bottoms I can wear it with. That makes me super happy. Now this is the first monochromatic look that you're going to see. You will see another one, wider leg pants in linen, cargo pants. I think it looks amazing. I'm very happy that the red tones match. They're pretty much the same. If there were different tones of red, then I wouldn't be happy to match them up, but this is amazing. Again, the length of the top is perfect at the high hip. I don't feel I need to tuck it in ever, which is amazing. It means I can be comfortable and live my life without worrying about something being tucked in. So love it, amazing. Here I've got my Simien top paired with grey tones in leopard print, a longer style skirt with pockets fitted at the waist and hips, but it goes wider at the bottom. Little slit. Again, you know, if I was wearing a wider style top that was longer, I would feel the need to tuck in, which I don't feel at all. With this one, I can just wear it as is. You can see the waistband is nice and fitted underneath, you know, it's not creating any bulk underneath the top. So this is perfect. And of course, the grey leopard tones are going to go with the red. I think it's really beautiful. The silver leather bag just adds something extra, and I'm really happy with how this looks. Second monochromatic look, this time with a wider style of skirt, the tiered skirt with an elasticated waistband, quite a voluminous skirt. Because this top fits amazingly and it's shorter, I don't feel I need to tuck in. This time I've paired it with caramel accessories in leather, beautiful, love it. It's such a comfortable skirt, just pull up, just throw the top on through your head, no zippers. It's just the perfect outfit for me. And I think a monochromatic look is always stunning. And in red, it's one of my best colors, so I feel super happy like this. Super happy and fresh for the summer.
I'd love to make a little black dress out of it, just like this one, but sleeveless in a linen. I think would be really nice. Did not have time to sew a third one, but I would love one like that. I think it would be amazing. Super enjoyed this one. I know the color's not the most amazing color, but not everything has to be red. And plus I have this one. This one amazing, using that leftover cotton and Broderie Anglaise made me super happy, because when you just have tiny pieces, you never know what they could be for. I don't throw them, I leave them there, and it was just enough to cut this piece and to make this top extra special. So very happy. I think the pattern is wonderful. The cup sizing is amazing. I'm sure you're gonna love it. If you have a larger cup size, it's super helpful. So I recommend. Don't forget the Simien top is on sale through next Monday the 19th. All the information down below and in the comment section. That's all from me. I'll see you again back at Lifting Pins and Needles in a couple of days. See you then. Bye.